which I gather in East Berlin at that time was something they didn't experience. So that all of the adventures and things that the kids got up to stayed with them, and he eventually moved across to West Berlin, of course, and he's teaching now. He teaches music and video, I think. But it stunned me because when you do a picture, you finish it and it goes out there, and that's fine, and you go on to whatever the next job is. And you forget that the film has a life, and it goes out there, and people react to it and take from it, give to it whatever they just it becomes part of them. And the fact that someone who had been in such a tight society appreciated and liked the film really was a surprise to me, and I was quite taken by that. So,
oh, look, I mean, Fog Dreaming was my first experience of feature film, and it was a pretty good first experience because it was American funded movie, so it had American money in it as well. So I got a slightly warped perception of what the Australian film industry was like because it had a slightly American slant. Being that the first day that I arrived on set to shoot, there was a chair with my name on it. And at 10 years of age, that was pretty fantastic. This is how it works. Oh, this is fantastic. We had stand-ins, so that when we were shooting scenes, and as is the normal process when you're filming, there's a lot of standing around, and there's a lot of, you have to mark through the scene, find out where everybody's going to be so that you can hit your spot, and you have to hit that spot every time so that the camera operator can pull focus and make sure that you're all in focus at the right time, so you have to hit the same spot at the same time every time, and so there's a lot of standing around and working through that. But with Fog Dreaming, we had the luxury of having stand-ins. So the actors would come in, we'd run the scene, we'd find out what we wanted to do, we'd hit our spots, and then we'd go away and sit and relax for half an hour while our stand-in stood there while the focus puller got the focus right, and the camera got the thing, and the boom, the sound recorders got the boom in position, and the mic right and everything. So it was pretty fantastic. Also, there was a lot of location filming with Fog Dreaming. As you see in the movie, a lot of it's outdoors. There was a lot of outdoors filming. So we were filming in Frankston. At the back of Frankston a lot, off 2 Bays Road. 2 Bays Road. The quarry there, and so we were there a lot. And I must admit, I was slightly shocked to discover recently what's happened to the Ambassador Hotel in Frankston, because that's where we stayed. It is now a slightly scary place. But when we were staying there, it was a fancy new hotel. So it was very nice when we were there. In fact, the only scary thing that happened when I was staying there at the hotel was that when we were filming, it was over Halloween. And Henry, being from the States, Halloween is very big in the States. But in 1985, Halloween was not something that Australians did. We just didn't even acknowledge it, weren't aware of it, didn't happen. So anyway, Rachel and I were sharing an apartment. We had a lady that stayed with us, and we'd all just gone to bed that night. And Henry had had a stunt double, Bobby, who had done ET with him and came out and did Fog Dreaming with him. And Bobby was a great guy, really, really fun. And so that night, Halloween, Henry and Bobby thought, it's Halloween, we've got to do some crazy stuff. So they got dressed up, and once it got dark, came around the back of our rooms, bashed on our bedroom windows, and screamed in like full mask. They had blood, they had everything. Rachel and I lost our tiny minds. We're hysterical, screaming into the room where our carer was saying, so yeah, suffice to say, Henry and Bobby got in a lot of trouble for doing that, and but thankfully that was the scariest thing that happened was the end of Frankston. So, but look, a fantastic shoot, and Brian Kavanagh Tamsin West, who was the director, was just wonderful. He made the infamous Australian iconic movie BMX Bandits.
Whoa!
Yeah, so pretty amazing, and so he was just a fantastic director to work with. He got kids, and he really was able to relate to you. In fact, the only time that there was ever a communication issue with Brian and I was that he was running me through a scene. It was in where there was when we were at the Warrior. There's a scene with when. I don't want to spoil it. My daughter hasn't seen it. When we discover something, and I had to hit this mark each time, and I was hitting the mark, and Brian was saying, "You're not hitting the mark. You're not in the sun. What are you doing? You're not hitting the light. You're not in the sun. Look, here's the mark. Get the sun." And I looked at him and said, "Brian, you're a lot taller than me." He was very, very tall, and he's like, "Oh, okay." That was about the only time we had a miscommunication. He was a fantastic director, and really, 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 really got kids and understood them, which is, I think, why this movie works so well, because he understands that sense of excitement and adventure and what kids really like to do. So.
Tamsin probably remembers that the original director was replaced a week into shoot, which caused all sorts of problems. Henry's contract, we were shooting in November, into December, and Henry's contract insisted that he had to be back in the States the day before Christmas. It was contractual, he had to do it. So we lost a week, the first week of shooting. It had to be thrown out for good, and Barbie Taylor, who was the producer, had to suddenly find a new director. Luckily, it happened with Brian. Trenchard Smith was available. He was about to start on a new film that he had sort of a few weeks prior to and he was able to squeeze in the film. So we'd lost 1 week, and then the next week it was laid off. That's when Brian started to work with you, and he had a week doing that and familiarising himself with the script and all of that. So we had to we couldn't just stop for the week. So Barbie asked me to do second unit direction on any material that was required that didn't
a lot of tadpoles.
And windmills and anything that didn't have the principles in it. But so eventually the whole opening sequence was literally I directed, because it was one actor in it, but he was not a principal. And so and also the end sequence, because Brian had to race off onto the new picture, and for the end sequence I supervised that as well, but Brian did close-ups, I think, of the principals at that stage before he left. So yeah, so it was a bit of a panic to get Henry on the plane back to the States and
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Answers? No?
Not at the moment.
I think that was pretty much self-explanatory.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Lights?
Cool.
Camera action. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.